grew up in a fairly intense environment, which I think provided me the skills that I needed to go to school and become a social worker. And then, as a result of my background in social work, I was dealing with a lot of my own trauma as well, which led me into working with individuals one on one, helping them create a new chapter in their life, how to move away from basically being a victim and surviving life into thriving. That included being a yoga teacher, so I've taught yoga for almost 18 years now. And I work quite deeply with the gene keys now. It's become one of those modalities that really has impacted my life in a way that no other modality has. And so I offer that a lot in my work one-on-one with people. So that's the gist.
Explain to us gene keys. What is that and how does it apply?
Yeah, so it's it's like a modality, but it's a map of this architecture of this life. So when we come into this life, there's certain archetypes that we step into, and there's certain maybe mappings that are given to us. And when we understand what those are, we can understand really directly what are the things that I'm going to struggle with most in this life, and what are my greatest gifts. And the things that I struggle with are actually going to lead to my greatest gifts in life. And it feels like some modalities look at shadows as like, let's heal the shadow. And this one looks at the shadow is going to be your greatest gift. So let's lean into it. Let's have compassion and let's actually understand it so that we can transform it and use it for what it's meant to be used for. So that's like a really small snippet of a big complex maybe system. Yeah.
It's like the appetizer to the three-course meal.
Exactly, but maybe even just like the Prosecco before you even have the appetizer.
Oh my goodness, I love it when people add on to my analogy. Fantastic. That's well done. I like that you mentioned that it's like something else that we can use because earlier today I was talking to someone and I said that sometimes when it comes to our healing, it's like I don't know if you watch like if you know comics or supers like Batman with his utility belt. It's
Mm,
just something to have in your belt that maybe today you can use the gene keys. Maybe tomorrow you use just that phone call from that close friend that's always that
mm,
listening ear. It's just something else to get you maybe through the day, through the week, through the month, through the year. What do
yes.
you see as maybe some obstacles that people are facing when it comes to at least the early stages of just identifying what is the source of their trauma?
Oh, that's a good question. A unregulated nervous system is probably number one of what I've witnessed and what I personally experienced is it's really hard to change when the nervous system doesn't feel safe. When you don't feel safe in your own body, when you don't feel safe in your own vehicle that you're here to do this life with, it's going to be really hard to start making changes because changing is difficult. And I think that the ego wants to hold on to what it knows or the protection mechanisms that have helped it survive, but so many people are still living in survival, and you cannot thrive and be surviving. It's impossible. So the first thing is recognizing, am I literally sprinting through life, and can I stop and slow down and actually start to feel life and start to be with myself, and then it's like then we can look at all the things that might be available or what tools might be helpful. But the first thing is you just like you can't really speak to someone if their nervous system is out of balance because they're not really hearing anything. They're just trying to get through it. It's like frantic. So that's probably my experience.
I've seen that firsthand years ago with someone that I was in a relationship
Mm,
and her nervous system was totally out of whack,
mm,
but she was in such denial, Shauna.
mm,
Right? Like
mm,
even like when her hands were hurting or her legs were hurting and she was having difficulty getting out of bed, I was like, "No, I'm fine." I'm like, "This is fine."
yeah, yeah.
Right? Are people so, do we get so comfortable in that deregulation that we think it is now normal because it's been that way for so long?
Yeah. But it's like you're in a prison and you don't know that you're in the prison. And it's like, but how do you, people have to come to their own recognition of that. I mean, you like you would have experienced, you would have said, is that normal? And she just wasn't open to that. So I think there's an element of, yeah, we can offer all the tools in the world, we can offer all the support, but if you don't want the support and you want to be the victim, all good, go be the victim, but you cannot be a creator and a victim. You got to choose. And at some point, like, and I just, when people tell me stories, I go, well, okay, you do want to stay in the story or do you want to change your life? Like, because it doesn't, I don't care. It's up to you. But you got to make a choice. And I'm not going to be here to sit around and listen to your stories all day. I'm going to be here to, help you move through these things. And I think that sometimes people choose to stay in their stories or stay as the victim, and that's okay too. I don't have any judgment for that. It's just not my cup of tea per se, or I wouldn't stay in a relationship like that if that's the case, just because I want to keep evolving. But that's my experience, you know?
I'm similar in that way. Because once I exited, I realized that the reason why I'm doing it is at the time, at least two reasons. One, maybe I can't provide the type of assistance that person needs at that point,
Mm,
right? Like they're at the point where they're not hearing what I'm saying. And to your point, they've been that way long, probably before I even came into the picture. So
mm,
who am I to disrupt that because they're existing and maybe they're perfectly fine with that? Whereas me, similar to you, I'm like, oh my God, let me get out of here, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
want to
yeah.
thrive, baby, thrive.
Mm,
Like surviving isn't enough for me. And, there's so many people on this planet, and maybe there's a demographic that they're just like, hey, I'm okay working 8, 9, 10, 12 hours. If I'm sick, I'm sick, but I'm fine with that. And it sounds like you're a little bit different, similar to me, where you're like, no, I see life a little bit differently and I want
mm,
a little bit more out of life. When two people come together and that type of perspective on life clashes,
mm,
how would you advise the person who is at peace, like you and I, to
mm.
navigate that type of relationship?
Oh, you mean the situation that you were in? Like what advice would I give to you? Yeah.
Yeah, what
Um,
would you tell a young terrain?
yeah. Well, I'd say, are you happy and are you living the life of your dreams? I would just start asking you questions probably about like, is this like if you're happy and this is something that you feel like is living your best life, then go for it. But if you feel held back or you feel a bit stuck, I always encourage honesty. I say just have that honest conversation with your partner and saying, look, this is what I'm witnessing. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I want for my life. Are we on the same page? Can we move through this together? Or are we looking at, yeah, this isn't a partnership for us? Because I think at that point, it might be that moment. You never know. It might be that moment for that other person that is the catalyst to the change. I mean, I've heard so many stories of, you know, married couples who break up and then the spouse does all the cleaning up. It's like all the things, come, but you don't know that the catalyst was actually the breakup. And so I think honesty is always the way to go. And you can only be true to your heart. And that's all you can ever do in life is you can speak from the perspective you're coming from, not in an attempt to change someone or manipulate them, but rather just to say, this is where my heart is. This is actually what I want. Are you on board with that? And if you're not on board with that, that's okay too. But let you go and do you, and I'll go and do me.
Did you always have that courage to be able to say those things or even live that type of lifestyle?
Fuck no.
How did you get
Ah,
that type of courage?
uh, practice. Like everything in life is repetition. So, I mean, when I was younger, I had really poor boundaries, and I had poor boundaries because I didn't really grow up in an environment where I even knew what boundaries or there were, but they were very like skewed. So I was a bit confused about, trusting myself or knowing like do I want this? Don't I want this? Like, and I didn't have a lot of choices. And so I think as I started to do a lot of healing, I remember one very early on, it was like, what do you want? I got asked, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know. And she was like, yes, you do. And I was like, no, I don't know because I've never been able to choose really what I want. And she goes, but you do know. You just haven't allowed yourself to feel that possibility of what you do want. And then once I started to kind of discover, oh, that's what I want, then the challenges started to come up in terms of setting boundaries and speaking from an authentic place. Yeah, so that was learning through repetition and practicing in difficult situations. And I mean, it still comes up for me, it's like we're always on this evolution and I feel like, you think that something is healed and then you get the next layer and you go, okay, here we go. Let's look at this next layer.
What did Shauna want?
Yeah. Um, oh yeah, that's a good question. To feel safe. I never felt safe ever in my upbringing. Everything was scary around me. I didn't know, am I gonna be raped? Am I going to be pinned down? Is my mom gonna try and kill herself? At every moment, it was like just alert for me. It was like so in a way it just if I would have felt safe, like I could come home and relax, like I didn't know like if anyone was going to be coming around the corner or what I was going to walk into at any time. I think what I wanted to do is I wanted to feel safe and relaxed so that I could then explore, well, what is it like? I mean, this kind of a side note, but it's funny because no one really knew anything that was going on in my life. I think even my closest friends had no concept of what was going on because I was so good at keeping it all together. And so I think that was just a role that I played and what I would have loved to do is have been completely authentic from a young age. But I just didn't feel safe to do that.
Do you think that who you were and who you're presenting were two different people, two different identities?
No, because I do think that I have always, you know, I think I sort of I came into this world standing on 2 feet. I don't think I was laying on my back. I think it was like you're here to do something and you've been given this lot in life for a reason. So here we go. So I think there's an element of I always knew that things were going to work out deep down inside. I like knew that I was going to be okay. And so I think there was a sense of me holding on to that and a sense of like, I can't just be sad and mope around all day. Like I've got to get through life, I think. But I think that's what most people are doing nowadays, right? But deep down inside, I think I was very, sad and low, and I don't think many people ever saw that part of me. So when I was younger, yeah. But I
Was
don't
that
think it was
intent?
two. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I don't think it was two separate parts to me. I think they were both a part of me. It manifested interestingly.
I asked because I know for me, I didn't want people to see me sad because if they saw me sad, and this is based on my childhood,
Mm,
then they would give me attention. They would give me a type of attention I didn't want at that time.
mm,
And well, thinking about it now, maybe I thought it would be pity.
mm,
Like they would pity me because of what I'm going through, not, and maybe that would lead to them respecting me less
mm,
because respect from others was very important to me back then. And that's why I asked that question because I was presenting as this happy, everything is right kind of guy. Then
mm,
when I would go home, I'm like, oh my God, I hate it here. Like,
mm,
why was I put into this situation? But then as I got older, I flipped that. The respect came
mm,
from within. My value
mm,
came from within.
mm.
Um, did you struggle with self-worth, self-value when you were going through what you were going through?
Definitely. I think there's There's still layers of that even now, if I'm really honest. Yeah, like there's, but definitely. I mean, I feel like a lot of people tried to annihilate me in my life, tried to kind of get rid of me. And so a big part of my returning back to myself is like, yeah, I'm worth living. I'm more like there's something important that I'm here to do and share and be. And but I didn't feel that way, for a long time.
What are some of the ways that you appreciate and value yourself now?
Mm. I really, I guess, pride myself on authenticity. What you see is what you get. I don't hide a whole lot anymore, and I guess not really at all. I share quite openly and authentically, so I think I'm very proud of that because I think that's hard to do. But I had a mentor that used to tell me, uh, she used to say, nothing to hide. What did she say? I can't think of the exactly. She said like nothing to prove, nothing to hide. And I always think that. I think I have nothing to prove to anyone and I have nothing to hide. And at the moment that I feel either of these, I know that I'm not in alignment. So yeah, but I also think I'm fun, like I like to have fun. I'm super stable and grounded. I think I have good energy and good aura about me because I work on myself regularly and I hope that people feel safe around me and they feel challenged by me. I like to challenge people in what they say and also remain really open-minded and non-judgmental and completely loving to people in whatever experience that they have. So, yeah.
That's amazing. And I think that is so important. Like feeling
Mm.
safe, it's not easy. As I breathe out, right? It's just,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
as children, we're told that the household is our first place of safety, outside of
Mm,
the mother's womb and outside of the loving arms of our parents, right? The household, where family is. But for so many of us, that isn't safe. And then when we go out into the world, we're like, okay, it's supposed to be a little bit less safe than our household, right? Because there's layers to it. But then some of us are like, well, outside is safer than inside.
mm,
School is safer than my home. The
mm,
gym, same thing. And then when you mention safety, it just took me back to sometimes we want to be that safety for ourselves. But if we're not shown what safety is, and I'll ask you this, how do we find it? How can we identify it? How will we even know what it is if we've never seen safety?
mm. You create love from non-love. You create safety. You teach yourself how to be safe. And you look around and you see someone who's safe and you ask them, how do you feel safe? What are the things that you do? I mean, I always feel like look at someone who has a life that you want and ask them a lot of questions. How did you do that? How did you create that? And I would, a lot of what I've learned is I look or I study people that I value their life, like the way that they live their life, and then I create that for myself, I listen to what they say. So it's like if you never knew how to be safe, just start to talk to people who feel safe, get yourself around people who feel safe, start to be in their presence. I mean, just being in the presence of someone who feels safe and grounded will make you feel safe and grounded. It will help to regulate your nervous system. You're in the same breath pattern, you're in that same energy. So, yeah, I feel like it's all available, but you got to choose as well, right? Like you've got to choose that you're not going to just make excuses that that was what your experience is. You're actually going to take some action and try and resolve this.
But Shauna, there's only 24 hours in the day. I can't do all that work.
And maybe it's not work, like maybe it's play, maybe it's curiosity. And rather than it needing to be like a slog, it's like you make me feel good. Okay, I'm going to spend some more time around you. And it's as simple as that. And you don't even, your mind doesn't even have to take it in, but your body knows because it doesn't matter what your mind does. It's the body is like, like you just did. You were like, it's like the body's doing that. So just keep exhaling. Keep finding things that make you don't worry about the work. Just do what feels good. Like you can't go wrong if you're doing things that feel good that are helping you regulate.
Yeah, breathing is never wrong.
Never, never.
Breathe, people breathe. That
Yeah,
reminds me
yeah,
of a story where I told someone that, right? I was like, "Hey, like you seem stressed, just breathe." And she was like, I was like, "Oh my God."
yeah.
What was that? I was like, maybe you shouldn't breathe.
Oh dear. Oh
Right?
dear.
But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's what she needed, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
we think
yeah.
like a breath is just first of all, most of us are probably not even breathing correctly. We're not even breathing from the
Mm,
stomach. We're breathing,
mm,
shallow breaths, right?
mm,
But you're right, like we don't listen to our bodies. Like what's the disconnect from your perspective? Why can't we hear what our body is telling us? Why can't we see what our body needs?
mm. I think parents, they do the very best they can, but let's just be honest that in any society when there is, if you don't just live on a farm and grow your own food and and life is sort of carefree. Let's say that you're in everyday society and a child's in a supermarket and they're 3 years old and they go, Mom, Dad, I want the lolly. And Mom and Dad go, No, you're not going to get the lolly. And then the child starts screaming, like, Oh my God, like they're so disappointed. And instead of the parent saying, It's understandable that you're disappointed, and you're still not going to get the lolly. But instead they go, Shh, stop. Don't behave that way. So the body sends a signal to respond to whatever is happening, or crying, like starts crying. It's okay. Stop. Like yeah, everything is okay, but it's okay for everyone to express all the emotions. So one of the things that with my kids, when they come home, instead of saying, How are you? I go, What are you feeling? Because because how are you is just it feels so closed in and it feels very here. Whereas if you go, how do you feel? That's a whole different ball game. And so I think at a very young age we get taught to behave a certain way and certain emotions are acceptable and not. So we ignore the signals that come through the body. The body sends a signal, then the mind responds. Somewhere in there we lose that connection and we over then think and we over analyze and we forget that it all starts with the signals in the body. The body feels it before the mind even does anything. That's my
That's actually
perspective.
true.
Mm.
Like the body will like getting out of bed is an accomplishment as we get older, right?
Mm,
Like, like you can't even, there's always that joke, right? The person jumps out of the bed and then their back goes, their hip goes, their knees goes, everything, right?
mm,
Because we're not
mm,
20 anymore.
mm,
But you're absolutely right. Like it just seems there's so many distractions
mm,
when it comes to preventing us from hearing what our body is telling us, allowing
mm,
us to be regulated. Um, when you want to help others or help them understand that, hey, you don't have to be a victim forever. Like you do have a choice and you can't take your power back. What are some of the tips that you would like to share with them to reclaim themselves, reclaim their power?
mm. Slow down. That's the first thing. Um, like there has to be space for life and for creativity. And if there's always an agenda, how does life ever surprise us? If there's always a place to go or a thing to do. So creating space is one thing. The second thing is I always start with what do you want? And let's get really specific. And I don't care if you think you can have it or not. Just tell me what you want. And don't worry about how you're going to get that either. So that's again where people can get really lost in their heads. And I'm always like, let's just find out what you want. What is it that you truly desire? So those are a couple things. One more thing is it's like we don't have to, if we want to go to Everest, climb Everest, we just have to put our head down and take a step and then keep our head down and take another step. And then you'll be up 5 steps and then you'll look up and you'll be like, oh, Everest looks a little bit closer. And then you put your head back down again. And sometimes people are so overwhelmed with climbing to the top of the mountain that they don't realize that it's just one step at a time that makes all the difference in the world. If it's just one little thing, and it doesn't need to be, you don't need to jump off the diving board and do a flip, but you might just sit on the end of the diving board and put your toe in, and that's a step and beautiful. And compassion is huge in the work I do because we're so busy judging ourselves for everything. And it's like, what if it was just all perfect and divine? And what if mistakes were an illusion? What if making a mistake was actually an illusion and you could never fuck up anything? Like you just couldn't. Like you cannot make a mistake. Would you live your life differently? Most people would.
You've just blown my mind there. If mistakes weren't real, would
Hmm.
I live my life differently?
Yeah.
Yes, because I'd be more willing to make a mistake.
Okay, man. But do mistakes even exist? I mean, do they exist or is it just an experience?
I think it's just an experience.
Okay, so then
Yeah.
if you live that life is just experiences and life will be your teacher, then mistakes are impossible.
And there's nothing to be experiencing guilt or shame about.
Exactly.
But that's two things that so many people experience, Shauna.
Yep.
Hmm. How does guilt and shame prevent us then from enjoying the experiences or having a different perspective of these experiences?
Well, it comes from a guilt and shame come from judgment, a judgment of self. It's like, we believe it's a mistake and then we judge ourselves for it. But what if that it's not a mistake? What if it's just an experience? Then, if it's an experience, you can have compassion for yourself because you learnt in that moment. Okay. You got feedback. And I do believe that life is our greatest teacher and it will give you the exact feedback that you need at the right moment. You don't have to go searching for it, life will give it to you. So, when this idea that you can't make mistakes gets to get moved away, then there's space for compassion, for forgiveness, for love. But at the moment that mistakes come in, it's judgment. It's like yes, no, good, bad, right, wrong. And life is not that. It's a paradox all the time.
Who's that judgment coming from?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so this is interesting, but I believe it's your primary caregiver that sits in your head, and people think that it's their inner voice. It's actually their primary caregiver, their voice, and we think it's us. We think, oh, I'm being really critical of myself, and I go, well, it's highly likely that it was your primary caregiver's voice and to no fault, there's no blaming in that. But when you can separate yourself from that and go, that was what I learned based on my conditioning, that is not who I am and that is not the truth. Then it becomes like it's not me, it's not my negative voice, it's that voice that you heard for decades. And you learned that maybe you thought that that was truth, but it's not. That was an experience, a repetitive one.
It's like they planted the seed in your mind and you're watering it.
Uh-huh. And you think it's yours. You think it's that voice in your head is you.
You think it's yours to grow to, you think it's yours to listen to.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, it came from somewhere else and
Hmm.
you're just watering it, you're nurturing
Hmm.
it, you're fertilizing
Hmm.
it, and it's taking over what you should be thinking of yourself, which is probably something totally different.
Yeah.
What a difficult place to be in between.
Uh,
How do we get people to escape that, free themselves?
I mean, I think there is an element of you got to study. Like if you want to learn and grow, you got to do a little bit of study. You got to study the people who have mastered these things. And it's like, you know, I feel like people come and work with me because I live a life where I live whatever I say, I'm living it. I'm doing it, you know? And I'm going to share from a place that's open. But you gotta go to the places and ask the people and study the things to learn these things if you really want to master them. Yeah, you can't just hope that life, like you can't just kind of sit back because I think then we become unconscious and the unconscious is the patterning from childhood. And so it's like there has to be a level of consciousness, not all the time, not every day, not but there has to be a little bit of momentum that moves us forward.
Is that something that everyone will come to the door of to walk through and do?
No. And that's okay too. I don't judge that. It's we all have our own experiences and that's okay if you don't want to do that. That's no big deal. But then don't complain about your life to me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, just it'd probably be better if you just like, because I just don't want a bar of it, you know? I don't judge you for it. Like, I think we all have our choices, but I don't want to be around the energy of, like negativity and pessimism. I think especially because that's the background that I come from, and that is probably would be my natural default if I'm not, active in being conscious.
I wonder sometimes, I look at my past experiences with friends who've come and gone out of my life. Some were here for a reason, some were here for a season, and some are here forever.
Mm,
And I can't say that every single person that has entered my life as a friend or former friend in some cases were aware of their choices.
mm,
It seems that some of them were just on autopilot. This is happening to me because that's just the way it is. Or I'm doing this to Shauna and I don't know what I'm doing, but I continue to do it. But then when you ask them the question, would you want that done to your child? They would say no.
mm,
So they're showing you through their reasoning that they're aware of what they're doing, but they seem, at least on the outside, powerless to either change it or understand why it's happening. Do you see that as well? And if so, what do you think the struggle is and the disconnect?
Do I see it? Yes. What's the disconnect? I just think it comes down to making a decision. You just have to make a decision. It doesn't matter what the decision is, but you got to make a decision. A lot of people won't make that decision to make the change. They just want to talk about it all day long. It's like, I know I should do this, but I'm not doing that. I struggle with this, but I don't. And it's like, can you just make a decision and do one thing in a step in that direction? Because the people who are not making changes in their life, they're not making any decisions. They're just hoping that one day they'll get whatever they wanted. Like the universe will just magically bring it to them and they have no active part in that. It's just, I hope, I hope, I hope. And then you sit there, but you don't take a step towards the hope. So I do believe that the people that you're speaking about, like I would be like, well, are you taking an action? Are you taking a step in that direction if you do want to change that? And most of them are probably going to say no. No, like I just one day, and it's like, well, okay.
Yeah, one day or day one, right?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Did you come up with that one?
I don't want to say, well, it probably came from somewhere. I'm smart, but I'm not that smart.
Oh, don't speak down to yourself like that. I don't
I
like
know,
that.
right? I'm
Mm.
talking to you, and here I am speaking down myself. No, of course I came up with it. I'm great. I'm magnificent. I'm
Wonderful, wonderful.
I'm beautiful.
Wonderful.
I'm everything that God wanted this world to be,
I
all
love
in one man. But
that.
I think that's what it is because that's how it was with the gym, right? Like to me, it was either one day or day one.
Mm,
There's a lot of one days. One day
mm,
became one year. You know, before I went back to school and wanted to work with charities and help women who are abused, it was one day. And then COVID hit and it became okay, day one. Because what else am I going to do when we were locked down?
mm, mm.
Right? So I wonder then sometimes does it does the event have to happen, or some people call it quote unquote a rock bottom moment for someone to make the change that maybe they were putting off, but now they're in a situation where it could be life or death, or it's something that's very drastic, or they make the change? Do you think that's necessary for them? Like that significant event?
For some people, yes. I don't think there's an absolute for anything. Because I just think recently I was catching up with someone, and he's a real positive, happy guy, runs a successful business, and he's maybe in his 50s now, and he said all of a sudden when I was 40, I just picked up this book and I read it, and it completely changed my life, and it just opened me up. So I think there can be two sides of that, where you can have the rock bottom, which is the humbling, but sometimes you can just meet a teacher or read a book or have we could call it a spiritual awakening that comes out of nowhere, and that can significantly transform your life. So I don't know that it has to be either of those, but I think um, many people learn from being at the bottom because they have no choice but to change, because they're going to end up in, it's like I used to work in drug and alcohol rehab, in NA and AA. They say, it's one drink is never enough and 1,000 is too many, kind of thing. And it's like, as soon as you hit that bottom, like you realize I've got to make a choice now. I've got to make a choice, or else I'm going to end up in jail, institution, or death. And that's what they say. It's either jail, institution, or death. So you're making a choice because you have no other. You're either going to end up in a jail, an institution, and death, or you're going to choose differently.
I agree. I agree. I think some people they need that rock bottom moment, that canon
Mm,
event where it's like the mother or the father that loses their kids.
mm,
Now I'm going to be a better parent. Now I'm going to
mm,
be sober, right? Versus someone else, in the example you gave, they could have picked up a book because they enjoy reading. They're like, wow, this
mm,
book speaks to me. Like I have books that speak to me. I have movies that speak to me. And every once in a
mm,
while, I'll just put them on, maybe once a month or once every 2 months, just to remind myself of that moment. But I'm the type of person that I can pull from memories to re-inspire myself. And I don't know if everyone can do that.
I love that. That's quite beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when you're alone and you spend a lot of time with your mind, you can, because it's either like when you're alone and with your own thoughts, either gonna love yourself or hate yourself, right? It
Yeah.
seems to be like no gray,
Okay.
right?
Uh,
And you probably met
uh,
people who you put them by themselves within like two
mm,
minutes. They're like, "Oh my God, I got to get out of here,"
mm,
right?
mm,
Because they can't be alone with their own
mm,
thoughts.
mm,
It's actually kind of sad now that you got me
mm,
thinking about it,
mm, mm,
right? You mentioned boundaries earlier.
mm.
Why are boundaries important?
Well, boundaries aren't for other people, they're for us. They're to show us what is what is my it's like how long is my tether, and what kind of tether do I want, it's like setting yourself up to I feel like succeed by knowing what your limits are and knowing what your expansion is. And that's so different for everyone, but everyone can choose that.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's this big misconception that people think boundaries are for everyone else. I'm like,
Mm,
no, it's for you. It's to help you understand what you're willing to tolerate and what
mm,
you're willing to accept. But boundaries don't mean anything if you're not going to enforce it. Like, if
Mm,
you tell someone don't touch me, they're always touching you. You're like, oh, they won't stop, so I'm just going to allow them to touch me. Like, what's that?
mm, And I think that we teach people how to treat us. We teach them that. So it's like with boundaries or lack of boundaries, we're teaching people that is okay for us or not okay for us.
Do you see people struggling with maintaining the boundaries that they set?
Absolutely. I mean, I still I still feel challenged by boundaries, at the moment with my daughter. It's like a daily navigation for me at the moment. Like, okay, like how do I set the boundaries that keep her safe and keep her alive? And how do I maintain our relationship at the same time? So, but yeah, I would say it's a big part of the work that I do with a lot of people because they don't know what they want out of the relationship. And that's always what I'm coming back to is what do you want? And when you know what you want, it can guide what you do. But if you don't know what you want, you're just going to keep doing what you've always done. So it feels like that with boundaries as well. Like, what do you want in your relationships? What do you want in your work? What do you want in your parenting? Like, what do you want in your partnership? And when we know what you want, then we can set the boundaries around that and you can practice that.
Is knowing what you want emotional exercise, a thinking exercise, or something else?
It's all of the above because I think the soul doesn't desire things that aren't, and I'm saying this lightly, okay? So because some people just take this and like roll with it, right? So it's like I say this and then it's a paradoxical thing, but it's like I do feel like when we desire something, we desire it for a reason. And it's like the soul wants to evolve. It wants to learn or it wants to expand. And so we have desires because that's our way of growing and expanding. So if we don't actually tap into what do we want or what do we really care about, then we'll just kind of keep plateauing in life. And that doesn't mean like I'm not talking about wanting things that are going to harm others or create damage in the world, but I'm talking about when the soul wants to have its expression, when you're like, "Oh, I really want to start a business, but I'm scared." Or I want to start that podcast, but I don't know how. It's because the soul is going, "I want more. There's more in this. How can we do this?" And so that's where I think there's an emotional like content that drives us, but it takes an actual, like, you do have to think about it as well because everything that I want, I write down on a note card and I say, I'm so happy and grateful I now, da 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 da. I am so happy and grateful now that. And I always write it in the present tense so that I can create it here and now.
I like that. I think I'm going to borrow that from you. You borrowed something from me. I'm going to borrow that from you. The writing down of things that you want on. Is that a card? Like you wrote it down on a card?
Yeah, and it comes from the work of Bob Proctor. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he writes a book. It's called okay, it's Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life. Now that is a life-changing book and it's like an audio as well. And he says that he used to study Napoleon Hill, who wrote the book Think and Grow Rich, which is quite a popular book for those that are want to make money. And he talks about the laws of, let's call it, universe or energy. And one of the things is he says on a note card, 50 years ago, I wrote down, I am so happy and grateful. I now have whatever thriving business that makes this much money. And he put it in his pocket and every day he just read it every day. And what happens is the repetition reprograms the unconscious mind because otherwise we just think unconscious thoughts. So if you just keep telling yourself a lie over and over and over again, you'll just believe it. So why not tell ourselves lies that we really want, right? So if you keep reading every day repetitively, I am so happy and grateful I now attract all the most beautiful people into my life that support me, and you just keep reading that every day, eventually you're going to believe it and your energy is going to align with that. And then you're going to manifest it. Okay. And you don't need to worry about how, you just need to focus on that thing. This is what I want. And, he talks about those three types of goals. There's like the A type, which is like, I want bread. Okay, well, you can go to the store and get bread. And then two is like, well, I can get the bread as long as, so and so pays me the $20 that they owe me. And then level, C type goal. I mean, I'm not going to use the bread, but it's like I want to go on a holiday to South Africa and you have no idea how you're going to get there. That's the only goal that you should ever have. And you should just focus on the energy of what it's like to be there in South Africa. So every day, I'm so happy and grateful that I'm going on a holiday. And don't worry about how it's going to happen because that's where the mind gets involved. Just work with this is what I actually desire, and I'm going to attract this because I'm going to, through repetition, believe this to be true.
Okay, so it's focusing on it being accomplished instead of the behaviors that you need to do to
Yeah.
accomplish it.
Yes, yes. So completely different than everyone else thinks that it should. They think, well, I want this. Well, as long as I do this and this and this and this, but see how much work that is involved. But imagine just focusing on the outcome and just the energy goes towards the outcome and then opening yourself up to life and letting life surprise you and how it's going to bring you that exact outcome.
Mm. And that's something that actually could be applicable for so many different areas in our life.
Yes. So I write down all different areas. Like for all of that, you could write down for personal relationships, for work, for whatever it is that you desire. But again, it's tapping into what is it that I truly desire? And if I desire it, and there have been times I've written down things, and then after I've been reading them, I'm like, I actually don't desire that anymore. So I just cross it out and I go, I've sat with that for a week and I thought I desired it and I don't. And so that shifts for me and it's amazing. But the amount of things I've written on that card, like I've gone through about 10 cards and I've had to throw them away because I've accomplished the things. But it's not that I've accomplished them. I've just focused on the energy of that is what I want.
So if I were to apply this to myself and there's certain things, let's say throughout the day that I want to accomplish, or how far in the future can I go?
Let's just say like do you want a loving relationship? I want a loving, healthy relationship with a partner that I admire. Then you write on that sheet, I am so happy and grateful that now I have a loving relationship, with a partner who lights up my life. And just every day you write that down, or say you're like, you want to have, you know, 5,000 guests on your podcast. So you're like, I'm so happy and grateful now. I've hit 5,000 guests on my podcast. If it's a daily thing that you want to incorporate, I am so happy and grateful now that I wake up feeling alive and centered. Do you see what I'm saying? So it can be both at the same time, but remember, a goal, we don't have to know how we're going to get there. And that's the only goal that we should ever have is one that we don't know how we're going to get. Otherwise, we're just trying to manipulate life. Let
Just
life
giving us things
surprise
to
us.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
hear you.
mean,
We're just trying to fill our days. Okay, yeah.
yeah.
I'm on your page. Yeah, I'm on the
Okay.
same page.
Yeah, let me know how you go. Give it a go.
Yeah, yeah, because you're right. Now that I put things in perspective, like if I were to put up my calendar, I put things in there that are going to lead to something further down. So similar to what you're saying, but I know people that will put things in their calendar just to put things in their calendar, and that's the opposite of what you're describing.
Yes, absolutely. Because if everything is always full, how do you get surprised? How is there space for creativity? Like if you have everything all day long planned out, how are you being present with life? Like there must be gaps, there must be space for surprises, for life.
Goes back to our original conversation, right? You're just surviving, you're not thriving or
Mhm.
living.
Because you're too scared to, probably. You're too scared that what is actually going to happen if I don't have everything planned out. And that's where the gold is, though. because whatever we're afraid of is probably going to be our biggest breakthrough on the other side.
Let me ask you, Shauna, one final question on this note,
Mhm.
but I want to give you three wishes for this question.
Okay.
Okay, you can't wish for more money. We probably wish for world peace and things like that, but in regards to this one question, what are three things you wish people knew about letting creativity in their life and why?
Okay, three things that people knew for letting creativity in their life. Well, you can't be a victim and a creator. So you got to make a choice. Um, because when you're a victim, you're saying, poor me, or this has been done to me. And when you're a creator, you're open. So the energy is completely opposite. One is closed and restricted, and one's open. And creativity is like open to receiving. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing is that there must be space for creativity to arrive. Um, so if you're always busy running around doing the things, then driving the same route to work, ordering the same coffee from the same coffee shop, getting out of bed, doing the same thing every day, how does creativity arrive? How are there surprises? So creativity is spontaneous and she's feminine. And I don't mean that in a female way. I'm talking about the balance between the two sides. Many women are in their masculine because the feminine, she's wild, she's wise, and she's inside of all of us, and that's creativity arrives, and there's no perfect time, it just is the time, right? So if everything is always planned out, which is a very masculine based activity, to it's the logic and it's the like this, how does the spontaneousness arrive? I guess I would say. So I'd say that's two. I'm just trying to think what's the third thing around creativity, or three wishes for creativity is hmm, probably just you're worth it. People don't think they're worth receiving, fucking awesome things in life. And if you just decide you're